Let's talk about Thomas Drake, who was a senior NSA, National Security Agency official, who also tried to blow the whistle on something completely different. Now he's being prosecuted. Tell us about that.
Well, I think it just highlights the hypocrisy of the Drake case. When you have the government going after WikiLeaks on the one hand for someone being totally rogue and out on a limb and doing his own thing, whereas Drake went through all the quote-unquote proper channels under the Intelligence Community Whistleblower Protection Act.
Let's walk back. What exactly did he do? What was his concern and what did he do about it?
His concern, broadly, the investigation of him began with the investigation of the sources for the New York Times blockbuster warrantless wiretapping story that won the Pulitzer Prize. He got swept up in that investigation, and he was one of a number of people who had gone to the Inspector General to complain about an NSA surveillance program that picked up vast amounts of information with no privacy protections, rather than using a much cheaper, more effective alternative that would have had proper filters and anonymization.
Why did he
procedures.
go to the Inspector General about that?
According to the law, that is what you're supposed to do. He went to his bosses. He went to the National Security Agency General Counsel.
In other words, he was saying, look, we have something better that would be less invasive, and we're not using it. Why is that? And what happened when he did that?
Well, right now, he has been indicted. After going to the NSA Inspector General, 4 people went to the Department of Defense Inspector General, and then Thomas Drake became a leading witness in the 2.5-year investigation that ensued. And somehow, apparently a report was issued that was favorable to the complainants and validated that
this
billions—
would be Drake and these other people
Yes.
who went to the Inspector General.
Yes, and they found billions of dollars, $1 billion boondoggle, in the program that NSA had chosen to use, a program called Trailblazer. And now he has been indicted for retention of classified information with the purpose of distribution.
Now, but the real crime, quote unquote, although he's being charged with retention under the Espionage Act, correct? The real crime, it looks like, is that he released these, or he's being charged with releasing this information to the Baltimore Sun. Is that right?
Well, actually, in the narrative of the indictment, it paints a very sordid tale of intrigue and him secretly giving classified information to a reporter. He admits that he gave information to a reporter, but maintains that it was all unclassified, and I think went out of his way to make sure that it was only unclassified information, and only did that as a last resort because all of his complaints to the proper channels fell on deaf ears.
Now, just so we walk back and it's understood, in order to have access to classified information as an employee, you need some kind of security clearance. Is that right?
That's correct.
And so, how long did he have a security clearance?
My understanding is he had had a security clearance for quite a lengthy period of time. He had been in the Air Force for 10 years. And he wasn't a newbie to the whole intelligence world at all. And the government's contention is, look, he signed secrecy agreements. And I think what no one is looking at is the fact that 4 times in his professional career, the bulk of which has been dedicated to working in the military or for government agencies, he has 4 times taken an oath to uphold the Constitution and to defend it against enemies, foreign and domestic. And when you have a domestic agency going after its own U.S. citizens without warrants and with vast sweeping surveillance in violation of the Fourth Amendment and laws like FISA, that trumps any kind of agreement you have. You can't hide illegal activity under the auspices of a classification label.
Now he's being charged under the Espionage Act. That is, he's a spy. Who's
Right.
he spying for?
Apparently he is spying on behalf of the American people against a government that's overreaching and violating its own laws. There's no question. The only 3 federal judges to weigh in on the warrantless wiretapping program, all 3 found it to be illegal. And then those lawsuits were shut down by the FISA Amendments Act of 2008. So apparently, by being a whistleblower, they're charging him as a spy, presumably for revealing our country's illegal conduct.
Now this investigation of Thomas Drake began under the Bush administration, but has it abated under the Obama administration?
No, it's escalated under the Obama administration, as have leak investigations and prosecutions as a general matter. It began under the Bush administration, but he was indicted in April under the Obama administration, ironically by prosecutor William Welsh, who was charged with criminal contempt in the Ted Stevens case.
So it sounds like, from your perspective at least, that the current system for national security whistleblowers to reveal information is broken.
That's absolutely right. National security and intelligence agency officials, who I would argue are the people you most want to blow the whistle if, for example, your airplane is not working, and any number of examples. I mean, these are the people you most would want to hear from if a nuclear plant was unsafe. They are the people who are the least protected by whistleblower laws, and I think they're making an example out of Tom Drake. Interestingly, you pointed out that he was being charged under the Espionage Act, which makes him the 4th person in U.S. history and in the 93-year existence of that law to ever be charged with a crime involving some kind of mishandling of classified information. The first person, tellingly, was Daniel Ellsberg, who was a Pentagon Papers whistleblower.
What should be done to correct this broken system?
I think if the government doesn't want people going to the media, it really should put its money where its mouth is and enact meaningful whistleblower reform. Meaningful, not symbolic, not sham, not you may only report within your agency and then your agency doesn't do anything and you need the permission of your agency to then go to Congress. The First Amendment allows you to go to Congress to petition for redress of grievances. I think the administration should think long and hard because it talks a good game about the importance of whistleblowers, and so does Congress. Both Obama during the campaign and during the transition talked about the vital importance of whistleblowers, but the action in going after reporters and sources, which includes Thomas Drake, and renewing the Bush-era grand jury subpoena of Jim Risen, who broke the warrantless wiretapping story with Eric Lischblau.
In the New York Times.
In the New York Times, yes. And the sentencing of Shimei Leibowitz. It is uncontested right now in the New York Times and the Washington Post and Washingtonian Magazine, mainstream media, that Obama has been tougher on leakers, who are actually a derisive term for people who are really whistleblowers, than Bush was. And Bush was seen as being unmerciful.
I know that you have launched some kind of petition campaign. Tell us about that.
Yes, we have a petition on behalf of Tom Drake through change.org asking the government to dismiss this pretextual indictment that smacks very much of prosecutorial abuse. There is also a Save Tom Drake Facebook page, but as far as I can tell, before April, the government wanted this to proceed under the radar screen. And Bush went after whistleblowers and made their lives very unpleasant, but Obama is threatening to send them to jail and has sent them to jail. Shimei Leibowitz is serving 20 months, and now Drake faces upwards of 35 years in jail for serving his country. No one has argued that anything he did was intended to harm the United States or aid a foreign nation.
Many thanks to Jesselyn Radack of the Government Accountability Project for helping us understand the perils of being a national security whistleblower. When commentators get on their high horses about how irresponsible WikiLeaks and Bradley Manning are, remember the story of patriot Thomas Drake, who did everything by the book, only to have the book thrown at him by his own government. I'm Mark Cohen, and this has been Whistle Where You Work.